EBF's new open forum is a live Bible questions and answers program. What kind of Bible question do you have? What subject is of concern to you? Well, this is a program designed to offer you the opportunity to call in and ask questions or comments relating to the Bible. Our host and Bible teacher, Chris McCann, will respond by going to the Bible, the infallible Word of God. Our program is hosted Monday through Friday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Sundays, it begins at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Call our toll-free number at 888-969-9883. Again, that's 888-969-9883. There will be someone there to answer your call and give you simple instructions to be on the program. You can also join through Zoom video by going to ebiblefellowship.org and clicking the icon at the top. If you're calling in from another country, select the International Toll-Free button to find your country's number.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to E-Bible Fellowship's new open forum program. During this time, we're going to open up the phone lines to take your call, and each person is invited to give us a call if you have a question or a comment that you would like to make about the Bible, and I'll try to respond by going to the Bible, as the Bible is God's Word. It is His communication. It is His speech. A lot of times people wonder, I wonder what God is thinking. The Bible is a record of His thoughts. And if you have ever wanted God to talk directly to you, tell me something, God. Say something to me. Reveal yourself. Well, I don't know if God will reveal Himself to you. I do know the Bible is the revelation of God, and people, it is possible for people to read it and go away as though they heard nothing, and that would be because God is not revealing Himself to the one who is reading. That does happen because there are people in the world that God has chosen to reveal Himself to, and they are few, and there are people in the world that God has determined not to reveal Himself to, and they are many. But if it so happens, and it's very possible that you who are listening are one of those chosen ones that the Bible also calls the elect, if it is the case that God has chosen you, then it is an excellent time to go to the Bible and read, and before you pick it up, before you open it, think very carefully and seriously, what I am going to read is God speaking to me. And you may read something that is very pertinent, that hits you right away, or you may read chapter after chapter and come away, well, I didn't notice anything. Keep reading. Keep reading. Keep having that thought before you read. This is God speaking to me. And God does speak through His Word. He does communicate to us through His Word. And so we have to keep reading, and it could be the Lord would open up our ears. That's the real need, that He would open up our ears to hear Him speak. And then we can talk back to Him in prayer. Okay, before we begin, just like to mention a couple of things. One is the upcoming trip to Argentina. Lord willing, I believe the team is leaving March 31st. uh, 10 people all together will meet up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And could it be that we do not forget them? That we make a point, each one of us, of praying for them. And if we are in agreement with the things that the Bible is teaching, and we believe the things that God has opened up to our understanding, then we should be supportive as much as possible. And when it comes to supporting a mission team, a track team like this, you can do it various ways. One big way is through prayer. And so may each of us be reminded when we pray, and perhaps not be so selfish in our prayers. Just we do pray, and we have our list of concerns, and it is you know things that involve me. Well, this is something we're not perhaps personally involved, but it should be our concern. It should be a big concern for us that we pray for them. And the other thing is that we now have some of the little index card, or not index cards, like business cards, available for people who would like them. They're a nice way of witnessing, of sharing information. You can give it to anyone. And on the front, it has the website, ebiblefellowship.org, and the phone number for this program, and a line about May 21, Judgment Day. On the back, it mentions 2033 in a kind of mild way. It doesn't say 2033, the end of the world, but it says 2033, 2,000 years since Christ died and resurrected in 33 AD. Will God bring about a like resurrection of his people in 2033? And so, it would be an interesting thing to give to someone. It really has quite a bit of information on the little card, and it doesn't look jam-packed. It has the times for this program, and it also comes with 4 different time zones. So if you're on the East Coast, there's one for that, or the West Coast, and also Central and Mountain Time. So please, if you would like some, write us and let us know how many you want, 25, 50, and also tell us your name, your address, excuse me, your name, your address, and your time zone. Which, if you're in Mountain or Central, for the most part, we probably know East Coast states or West Coast states, but as far as the ones in the middle of the country, make it easy on us if you can, and let us know Central Time or Mountain Time. And even, it would just be good to make it foolproof that you tell us, okay, I'm in the Pacific or I'm in the Eastern. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, let's go to the first caller tonight. Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Yes, hello, good evening. I have a question concerning praying for the departed. It seems that 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 16 supports the idea of praying for the departed. What do you think?
Let's read it. 2 Timothy 1:16. Excuse me. Okay, 2 Timothy 1:16. The Lord give mercy unto the house of Onesiphorus, for he oft refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chain. Is that the verse?
Yes.
Well, do you think that is related to praying for, by departed, do you mean someone who has physically left or someone who's dead?
When the
Hello?
when the spirit has left the body.
So, yeah, when someone has died. Um, well, I don't see how this verse would relate now. O, Onesiphorus, he is he the one from Philemon? No, Philemon was the one who ran away. Yeah, let me read it again. The Lord give mercy unto the house of Onesiphorus, for he oft refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chain. But when he was in Rome, he sought me out very diligently and found me. I just don't see the connection to the soul leaving the body. How do you see a connection there?
Let's see. Doesn't this verse imply that one Sepphoris has passed away, and that he's praying for him? He's asking for God's mercy on not only on one Sepphoris but his household also.
Well, where does it say he passed away? The Lord give mercy unto the house of Onesiphorus, for he oft refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chain. But when he was in Rome, he sought me out very diligently and found me. The Lord grant unto him that he may find mercy of the Lord in that day, and in how many things he ministered unto me at Ephesus, thou knowest very well. No, this would just be a prayer, a blessing upon his house. He ministered to Paul, and Paul is remembering him and his family, his household, and of course that's the highest good that a child of God in the day of salvation could pray or desire for someone, is that they might receive God's mercy, that they might become saved. Um, and and if someone does receive God's mercy and become saved, then he would, verse 18, the Lord would have granted him that he may find mercy of the Lord in that day. Um, so, yeah, I mean, maybe there's other information elsewhere that indicates he died, but from this passage, I just don't see it.
Okay. What do you think
as
the Bible?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what do you think what do you think the Bible says about praying for the dead, or praying for the departed?
We're not to do it. We're not to do it, and the reason we're not to do it is because it's useless. It's useless. Um, we were called upon to pray while people live. While people lived, we could pray for them all we wanted, and cry out, "Oh Lord, have mercy," because uh, the Bible's clear that God saves individuals, His people, during the time of their life, and once they die, then there's no more possibility of salvation. What we understand now, that the door has shut for the whole world. Well, that's always been the case in the life of individuals throughout history. Once they physically died, there is a church, that a big church, and they have developed a doctrine about praying for the dead. They say that those who have died are in purgatory, and the prayers of family, the prayers of loved ones can move them along. And also, when that first came out, when that was taught centuries ago, there were individuals from the Catholic Church going from town to town and drumming up money. They would call people to the public square and tell people that as soon as you drop a coin into the kettle, into the pot, your loved one has been moved just a little bit more out of purgatory, and they encourage people to pray for the dead, to pay alms and so forth. It was a moneymaker. It was a moneymaker for the church, but it never had any basis in the Bible. As far as God's concerned, in the time he was still saving, the day of salvation, the opportunity for man, and from the perspective of each human being, while they lived, there was potential for salvation. But that potential came to a close once they physically died.
I see. All right. That's interesting. All right. Well, I wonder if I have time for another question or not.
Yeah, sure, please.
All right. They, there's other organizations that are preaching to exit the church, but so you wonder who has it correct. Some of them saying,
excuse me. What did you say? There's other organizations that are preaching what about the church?
To leave the church.
Oh, to leave the church. Okay.
And so you wonder who has it correct. It's very difficult because some say leave the church and people are still being saved, and then you have other ministries such as yours that's saying no, there's no more salvation, but you come out of the church. And then there was Mr. Camping who was very convincing, but obviously the world didn't come to an end on May 21st, 2011, so he didn't have it right either. So you wonder who has it right. It's really tough. It's hard to believe that God would people through all this confusion because everybody's close. I mean, there are other organizations that are saying leave the church, so
yeah.
Not many, but there are, but they have a different idea about salvation. So it's pretty confusing. You don't know it's
right.
really tough for a person. They'd have to do their own.
I know what you're saying is correct. There are a few out there who are speaking of, highly of Mr. Camping and following some of his teachings, and they continue to say there's salvation. Of course, what they're really doing is they're keeping the Great Tribulation rolling. The Great Tribulation, Mr. Camping taught, and I, learned from him, checked it out, and believe, and still believe it was correct, was 23 years, May 21, 1988, through May 21, 2011, was the period of Great Tribulation. The people that you're referring to also believe this, but then on May 21, you're right, we had some things wrong. Mr. Camping had some things wrong, and we were looking for a physical earthquake, a great worldwide earthquake, and we were looking for a literal 5-month period of time, and neither happened. And so what these people have done is they have believed their eyes, which is always a problem when it comes to the Bible. We don't walk by sight, We walk by faith. We do not trust, outward physical things. And what God did on May 21 was bring the world into a spiritual judgment. And does the Bible teach spiritual judgments? Definitely. You can go right back to the Garden of Eden, and God told Adam and Eve, in the day you eat thereof, you will surely die. Well, they ate. Did they die that day? Well, not physically. Adam lived 930 years. But God said, the day you eat, you'll die. How did he die? Ezekiel 18, verse 4, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. So he died in soul. The soul part of us is invisible. It's spiritual. You can't see spiritual things. It was a spiritual judgment right from the start. And, there's others. The most major judgments in the Bible were spiritual. But anyway, what some are doing is, because they didn't see anything, they've gone back from a great amount of material, of biblical information that the Lord opened up, especially using Mr. Camping to declare, and they'll again speak highly of him, but not follow these teachings. And they can't tell you. They can't tell you where we are specifically in time. Oh, well, they'll say we're in the Great Tribulation, but ask them, well, how long will this Great Tribulation continue? And what's your proof that it'll last 35 years, 45 years, 70 years? What's your proof? They're not providing any. They want a never-ending Great Tribulation, because if it's the Great Tribulation, there's still salvation, and they have families. And you see, they don't have, well, I don't want to say it like that, but it seems that they have interest in keeping the judgment of God over there on the church and off of where they're at and their families are at in the world. It's over there. Let's just keep it over there. And I understand that. Believe me, I have family. I have people I love, and I would love to be able to keep the wrath of God off of them. And yet, when you're a child of God, we do not dictate the gospel to God. We do not tell God, this is not to my liking. I will not follow a gospel in which, A, B, C. That's what a lot of people say. My God would not do that. My God's a loving God. And it is their God. It's not the God of the Bible. And so some people, they insist, I will not follow a gospel. I will not follow a God that has brought judgment to the world. It's cruel. It's too harsh. It's mean to say that time's still continuing and God is not saving people. Well, many of these same people ask them about hell, and they'll say, oh yeah, God will come and cast people into hell, and they'll die forevermore. Can they ever get out of hell? Is there any salvation once you're in hell? No salvation. How long is hell? Well, they say forever and ever and ever. And yet the same people who say that will say that it's cruel that God doesn't save in the day of wrath and the day of judgment for a period of some years, of 22 years, 23 inclusive. It's, of course, the kinder, gentler judgment is a judgment that works itself out on earth for a very brief period of time And then on the last day, God destroys the world, destroys the sinner. They're gone forever. And there's just no comparison. But as far as here's what I think the issue is with what you're saying. Who do I listen to? Who do I listen to? They're saying this. These others are saying that. Mr. Camping used to say this. And the problem is, and this was a problem that was happening years ago with the end of the church age. People didn't know, should I come out of the church? Should I go out into the world? Mr. Camping's teaching that, and they respected Mr. Camping. They knew he was knowledgeable. They knew he had wisdom, and so they were listening, and they understood because he's going to the scriptures. But their pastor, and not only their pastor, practically every pastor and elder and deacon, they were all of the opposite view. No, don't leave the church. The gates of hell will not prevail against you. You can't leave the church. Mr. Camping's wrong. And what happened was these people became sort of immobilized. They didn't know what to do. And their problem was their reasoning. They're trying to take this man's opinion versus that man's opinion and another man's opinion. And that's not how we come to truth. The Bible tells us, search the scriptures to see if things are so, like a Berean. A Berean. Don't search what people are saying about the scriptures. Don't search, this one's opinion over against that opinion. Search the scriptures. Pray for wisdom. Oh Lord, grant me understanding, grant me wisdom. I want to go the right way, and I'm hearing all these different things. Can you guide me into truth? And then, you can listen. Okay, he's saying this. Here's the scriptures that he's saying, and this other one's saying the different thing. And here's the scriptures he's saying, and then check it out. That's the responsibility of each person. Not just to be convinced because someone can speak well, or someone's a dramatic individual or impressive in any way. No, we shouldn't look to be moved by anything but the Bible.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, but boy, it takes an enormous amount of time to study it, though, to verify it, like you're saying. I mean,
well, yeah,
it
takes time. It takes time. But it's a very big issue in the life of a Christian. Probably nothing bigger. It was a big deal with the end of the church age to come out of the church. That was huge. And well, one thing that factors in is what Christ said in John 10. My sheep hear my voice and follow me, and they do not hear the voice of a stranger. And so when we're checking things out, like, Mr. Camping would say something, especially the last 10 years or so leading up to 2011, there was a lot of things, or a number of things never before taught by him, or in some cases by anyone. And at first it sounded even crazy. What do you mean there's no hell? There's no eternal place of torment? I thought that was a mark of the true gospel, and it seemed like very quickly, no, it's annihilation. It's, hell is the grave, and so when you check it out, and he would uh, present writings that people could check out, and he's giving the verses, and then you can compare them, or you hear the Bible study and you listen to the verses, and you go, and especially there's normally a verse that will not allow for the conclusion of a place of eternal suffering. Deuteronomy 25, first 3 or 4 verses, is that passage that will not allow for eternal suffering, because God sets a limit on stripes. And for a judge cannot pronounce more than 40 stripes. That's a limitation on punishment. God is under his own law. And so if he commands earthly judges, you cannot punish more than a set limit. That means he cannot punish a sinner more than a set limit, and so forth. So as we're checking it out, we should be praying for wisdom, and there ought to come a point, if we're a child of God. A lot of people aren't true children of God, but if someone is a true elect child of God, then they're already saved, because salvation's accomplished. They should have a new heart, new spirit. They should have or been equipped with spiritual ears to hear. And as they check it out, there will come confirmation in the spirit. I don't know how that works. I don't know how God arranges that in the life of his people. I know it's true. We hear his voice. We know his voice. It's distinguishable from all other voices. And we will not follow the voice of a stranger. Something doesn't sit right. Something doesn't sit right. They can be very close, and keep in mind, that's the nature of Satan, to come very close to the true gospel. Remember Matthew 24 tells us that even the elect would be deceived if it were possible, but it's not possible for the elect to be deceived. And so some of these gospels, they impostor the true gospel very carefully, very closely, and yet the Lord will make sure we're able to go the right way.
Okay, well, I appreciate it.
All right.
I appreciate it. It's very helpful. It's really good to have a Bible answer question program. That's really good. Happy
Well,
to see that.
very glad that you were able to call in tonight, and I appreciate your questions. And now we're going to go to the next person on the phone tonight. Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Good evening, Chris. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Great to have this program. And I was blessed by the day in the Word we just had. And you answered one of the questions really, really well. I believe we were edified by it in relation to seeing any fruit. And kind of like this program, since you put restrictions on callers such as myself, it's good to see that there's more people coming, even though it's a small amount. It's very encouraging to see people picking up their phones or trying to call in with their questions. So I think it's a small glimmer of hope that God has given us. My question is about Christ taking peace away from the earth. Is that also a part of the judgment that's going on right now? For example, there's a Bible verse that says the wickedness or the sin of the Amorites is not yet full. Is there some kind of parallel to God slowly removing his hand of restraint so that the cry of the wickedness reaches up to heaven for him to act. Is that a possibility?
Well, excuse me. I think that's in Genesis 15, and it says in Genesis 15, verse 13, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed, excuse me, this is an allergy for a change. This is an actual cold. Okay. Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve, whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And this word full is translated as perfect. And perfection has that idea of fullness. I think even in the New Testament, there's a word that translated full as well as perfect. And so the fourth generation would tie into the 400 years. We know that God had four generations to the time bridge to span the Exodus. There was Levi and Kohath, Amram, and the fourth was Aaron, and it totaled 430. But here, the 400 years of affliction, very specifically telling us it was affliction, would have began 30 years after Jacob and the children of Israel entered into Egypt to be taken care of by Joseph. And so the 400-year period would point to the conclusion would point to the time of Judgment Day, because God says, also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. Pharaoh and the Egyptians were judged with the plagues, with the Red Sea, and Israel was delivered. So it does point to the judgment of God at the time of the end, and the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And the Lord relates it to the fourth generation. So the iniquity would be filled up until the fourth generation, or this 400-year period, and then God will bring the judgment. And we see, that God is not holding back his wrath at this time, though yes, the time is still going and the world's still operating, but they're operating under the wrath of God. The official day of wrath, as Acts 17 tells us, there is an appointed day in which he will judge the world. That's the difference from, all throughout history, mankind has been unsaved people have been under the wrath of God, but they were not officially in that time period, the appointed time period of Judgment Day. That's what May 21, 2011 has brought to pass. And so, in other words, God's not putting up with the sins of the world any longer. He's not waiting on the world to sin more to a certain degree and then bring his wrath. He he has already done it. The, uh, it says in James, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth and has long patience for it until he receive the early and latter rain. And that waiting, that long suffering patience of God was during the time that the world sinned. The Amorites, who would typify the sinfulness of mankind, was not yet full, but the Lord, he worked it out so the world would be ready for Judgment Day, simultaneously with the completion of the salvation of all his people.
Thanks, Chris. So essentially, the sin of mankind is now choking on their sin, but there's not any, there's no longer any, God is not watching in terms of action now because he's already acting, is what you're saying.
Well, right. 2 Peter 3:15, a very important verse. It says that we can reckon that the long suffering of our God is salvation. That is, if God is holding back, seeing all the evil in the world, but not pouring out his wrath, the reason would be salvation. And that goes right along with James 5, verse 7, I just mentioned about the husbandman waiting. He's waiting for the fruit. And the implication is once he receives the fruit through the rains, he'll no longer wait. And so God received the rains, early and latter rain, early during the church age, latter during the second part of the Great Tribulation. And also the fruit was produced as far as all to be saved were saved, the great multitude saved out of Great Tribulation. There's only those rains, no other rains follow. And so once accomplished, then God judges. And yes, the world seemingly is still increasing in iniquity, but there's a few verses in the Old Testament, one in Genesis 4, where Cain has slain Abel. And interestingly, in the Hebrew, in verse 3, you have to look in the interlinear Bible to see it. Genesis 4, verse 3, it says, in the end of days. In the King James, it says it came to pass. But actually, literally, it says in the end of days, Cain slays Abel, two brothers that previously had been fine together. We would gather, and then God arranged for an offering. They both knew they had to make an offering, and he accepted Abel's offering, but he did not accept Cain's offering. Very similar to what happened between Jacob and Esau with the blessing. And one received it, the other didn't, and the other became bitter. Esau wanted to kill Jacob. Well, Cain became envious and did kill his brother Abel. In the end of days, those in the churches, Cain and Abel, there'll be separation, and we know, the elect were driven out of the churches, and to be driven out of the synagogue is equivalent to being killed. And so all that fits into the time of the end. And then God punishes Cain, and Cain begins to wander, and he says, my punishment is too great for me. It's too much. And the word punishment is the word sin. And it's not only there, it's in Zechariah 2 or 3 times where we read the word punishment, and it's actually a Hebrew word translated elsewhere as sin or iniquity or something like that. definitely used in relationship to just sin. And and so yeah, the world, they're going after their sin like never before, but as you mentioned, it's more like they're choking upon it. It's very unfulfilling, unsatisfying. Nothing is pleasing seemingly anymore in the world. People aren't finding enjoyment in music. Their division is taking place and ruining so many things, or God is exposing behind the scenes of things that people, the world, used to kind of be carefree about, like movies or television, the acting world, and now, oh, it's all a mess. It's all a mess because people with the electronic medium, they're found out. Well, this person, he holds positions that are against mine, and and people just can't enjoy things like they used to, or sports. A lot of times sports has been ruined for people, and and so forth. Just about everything. And yet people are still trying, still pursuing happiness all the wrong way. They're trying to find joy in drink or drugs or sexual relations, or in things that are against the commandments of God. They're trying to find purpose and meaning in lives by going to work and trying to get enough money to enjoy themselves. But the vanity of life, the emptiness of life, I think, is really starting to hit home with a lot of people. It's just, again, not satisfying. Sin cannot satisfy. That's an absolute. People can go a long way trying to use sin to satisfy themselves or find contentment or some kind of happiness or joy. Yeah, um, they'll do it again and again and again and again, and yet a lot of times it just gets more unsatisfying
So,
and and
Chris,
and lacking even more purpose.
thank you so much for spending time on this. But what about those in the churches? They seem pretty content with their false doctrines. Is it because they are deceived? And you know that Bible verse when he said, "When you shall see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob entering into the kingdom of heaven, and ye yourselves thrust out." I know that is a spiritual connection, but it seems like those in the churches are quite content remaining in the churches and believing the lie. Yet, on the other hand, people are choking on their sin and finding that they're not getting the same um, enjoyment as they used to have. Is it because God's general mercy on those who read the Bible and pray and do things which God commands us to do, why they are being so sustained at this time? And thank you. I'll mute.
Well, those in the churches aren't doing what God commands to do, because he commanded the church age is over, and everyone has to get out. And so their existence, their continued going to church on Sunday, is all rebellion against God. Everything about it, the preaching, the hymn singing, the offering of prayers, it's all contrary to the will of God. And so I don't know. Yeah, there is a darkness that came upon the church, just like there's a darkness that has come upon the world. And God did send strong delusion upon um, Christendom, or the corporate church. And the word delusion is the word error. God sent strong error that they should believe a lie. and they do believe lies. And you know, but I would suspect that going to church is just as unsatisfying as people of the world going to the bar. They do it. It's a place for social gathering, and this is what we do. It's Friday, it's Saturday, let's go to the bar. Well, same thing in a religious way. It's Sunday, let's go to church, or let's go to the mosque, or let's go to the temple, or let's go to the synagogue. And there is no God. God is not in any place of organized religion in all the world. He's not with them. And there's also I would think a dissatisfaction with people who are bringing a gospel, and there's really no change in the people that are hearing it. That the free will churches, they rejoice because a few people walk down the aisle and wait a little while, and the same people are back at it in the world for the most part. And that has to be discouraging. That has to be people are they're just sensing, just like in the world, they're sensing something is off. Something is off. And what is off is there was a church age. Christ was in the midst of the church for the church age. It was a genuine um, fact that the church was blessed by God, and now Christ has departed out of the midst, and the church age is over, and you just can't recapture that. You can't make that spiritual atmosphere return. That I think they try to maybe even um, duplicate preaching or sing old hymns. Maybe some try to go back to traditional doctrine, but you cannot duplicate the Spirit of God. If the Spirit of God is not there, then there cannot be blessing upon that congregation. And that's what the Bible is telling us, that the Spirit of God has left them, and that would be the reason why that they're. I would again, you ask people, oh yeah, I find a lot of meaning and purpose, and well, okay, you can ask people you can ask an atheist or people in the world, and they would say the same thing. People lie. People don't even know what it means to be fulfilled, to have purpose and meaning in their life, real, genuine purpose and meaning. They find some vain empty replacement and think that's purposeful and meaningful. And so it's just something we can know from the Bible, that ultimately it is impossible for a human being created in the image and likeness of God to find any true satisfaction apart from God. No matter what they try to substitute God for, and it could definitely come in the form of religion, they'll never succeed. But thank you for those good questions, and let's go to the next person on the phone tonight. Welcome to our question and answer program. Please go ahead with your call.
Hey, good evening, Chris. You hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Great. So there's a verse for the last caller. that says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men are fully set to do evil. So,
Well, just to comment on that, the difference would be that the sentence against evil men, I think that's Ecclesiastes 8:11, is now executed.
yeah,
God
that's what I
is,
was trying to get at. Yeah,
yeah,
it's no longer being held back.
right.
But yeah, my question is in hold on, Isaiah 31:1 and Isaiah 37. I like to compare those two. And could you?
Isaiah 31, verse 1,
Yes,
and Isaiah 30, verse 7.
correct. Yeah, I like to
Okay.
compare them. And can you please explain, if you could, how that relates to the time we're living in today? Thank you very much.
Well, let's see. Isaiah 31, verse 1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek Jehovah. And chapter 30,
Verse
previous
7.
chapter, verse 7, for the for the Egyptians shall help in vain, and to no purpose. Therefore have I cried concerning this. Their strength is the sit still. Well, yeah, um, you know, Egypt can be a picture of the world. It can also be a picture of the church, like the fallen church in Revelation 11, when the two witnesses are killed. Uh, God says they're lying dead in the street, which spiritually of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. And here, um, this is just a biblical fact. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, going to the world, going to the church today. The church is part of the world for help. I'm going to seek my help in some way through the world or through the church. Now, of course, this isn't speaking of uh, help for physical needs. Yeah, if you got a plumbing problem, find a plumber in the world, or if you have another issue with the electric or whatever, or you have a physical problem, go to a doctor. It's not talking about that. It's speaking of spiritual help, which is God's area. Exclusively, God, the God of the Bible, is the one to go to, and he does not view anyone kindly who goes to anyone else seeking help and assistance instead of him. And so, woe to them that go to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots. And horses and chariots are figures of strength, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. And um, one one application today would be those who are um, Christians or true believers, and they're going to politics. They're going to the world. They're going to fix the world. They're going to fix all societal ills and correct things through the world. They're going to fix all these issues. No, they're not going to fix anything. They're not going to fix anything. God's the one who has given man up to, quite a list of gross sins in Romans chapter 1. And he gave them up because they're under the judgment of God. It's God who has lifted his hand of restraint off the hearts of men and allowed sin to multiply and abound across the face of the earth. It as part of his outpouring of wrath upon the inhabitants of the earth. And so for Christians who really ought to know better, to get all caught up in well, yeah, I'm going to support this group to combat this other group so that we can recover and we're going to really get things straight. No, nothing's going to get straight. It maybe temporarily, shortly, it's kind of like, one side pushes the other side to the cliff. And just when you think they're off the cliff, no, now they're coming back. They're going to push that side back to their cliff. And it's just constant division. Well, those who stay on horses trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong, but they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek Jehovah. Seek Jehovah. Go to God for all spiritual matters, especially today, where every religion is part of Egypt. It's part of the world. And so no one should go to church, synagogue, mosque, or temple in search of help, of spiritual help in any way. You will not find it. You will find the opposite. You're not going to be helped. You're going to be harmed. But thank you for calling and sharing. And I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight and sharing your questions and comments, and especially the Bible verses we had a chance to read and consider. Well, we've come to the end of our time. Lord willing, we'll have another open forum program tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we hope you can join us then. But for now, may you have a good night, and may the Lord's perfect will be done.
Thanks again for joining us for eBible Fellowship's live open forum program. You can call in with your Bible questions Monday through Friday beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and Sundays beginning at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, may the Lord's perfect will be done.